Hey guys, this is a Draw Near moment. My name is Titus. It's that moment of the week where we draw near to Christ together. What do you do when you don't know what to do? Let's get to it. If you're like any normal human being, you've probably been in a moment in your life where you were just didn't have an answer. Things weren't going the way you thought they would be. Everywhere, every little thing that you've tried, it just doesn't seem to be working, and you're in an unescapable circumstance. And no matter what you try, you're going nowhere. You're absolutely stuck. Well, I want to talk about this idea and tie it in with the ending of talking about prayer, because I told you last week we were going to talk about my favorite story on prayer and answer the question, or at least give us an idea. We're going to look into someone's life that's going to teach us, what do you do in those circumstances when you're surrounded, you have no answers and tons of questions and everything just seems to not be working the way you want it to go. What do you do when you don't know what to do? Now we're going to read about a character named Hezekiah. Now, he's an awesome character. He was a king of Judah. You can find his story in 2 Kings and 2 Chronicles, and I actually suggest you do. He has an awesome story to tell. And we're going to look at a very specific piece of his life. Now, he's the king of Judah, so he's in charge. And he found himself in a circumstance where not only was his own life at risk, but his entire kingdom, his people, everything was at risk. And he had kind of gotten into a little bit of a spat with another ruler, and it was the king of Assyria. Now, Assyria was the superpower of that day. Strong people, they were the most feared, and they were at war with everybody, and people would literally send them money, just, don't hurt me, here's my money, just take it, just to not have to go to war with these people. And for a while, Judah did the same, but Hezekiah had made a decision at some point to say, you know what, we're done, you guys are bullying us, we are no longer going to be just handing you money for nothing. Now, as you might imagine, Assyria didn't like this very much. In fact, they struck back. And I don't know what Hezekiah thought was going to happen, but at the time, Assyria was at a war with somebody else, so maybe he thought this was a good time to just kind of get away from that. And so Assyria was not very happy with Hezekiah, so they attack. In fact, they not only attacked, they took over the cities, on the fortified cities, which are the cities like outside of the main city. They took those over, and they surrounded Hezekiah. Now, we're going to step into the story, and I'm just going to be getting to the point of the story, but there's a whole lot more detail, so please check it out for yourself. But at this point, they are surrounded. There is no hope. Hezekiah is like in a hard circumstance, and he's in a moment where, if God doesn't show up, we're going down. And that's a pretty interesting place to find yourself. So in 2 Kings 19:10, this is where we're going to pick it up. Now, just so you know exactly what's going on right here, King Sennacherib, which this is a really awesome yet evil and just crazy name. King Sennacherib, the king of Assyria, sends Hezekiah a letter. And it's interesting because Hezekiah has actually tried up to this point to kind of make peace with King Sennacherib. After he found out that it made him really mad, they started taking like gold off doors and door handles, just like, here's some money, please don't attack us. We should have done what we did, that sort of thing. But he didn't want any of it. He was ready to get some blood. And anyway, so you find Hezekiah right here, and King Sennacherib has sent Hezekiah a letter, again, surrounded, all that stuff. So, and starting in verse 10, it says, say to King Judah, say to King, what is wrong with me today? Say to Hezekiah, king of Judah, do not let that God you depend on deceive you. When he says Jerusalem will not be given into the hands of the king of Assyria, surely you have heard of what the king of Assyria have done to all of the countries, destroying them completely. And will you be delivered? Did the gods of the nations that were destroyed by my predecessor deliver them? And this is just so chilling. So he's like saying, not only is he calling out Hezekiah and Judah, but apparently up to this point, Hezekiah has been like, I'm praying and hoping that God's going to get us out of this situation. And he's wanting to knock the legs right underneath the Hezekiah. That hope that you have is not going to help. And he's like saying, did the gods of these people help them? And so he gets into a list. Did the gods of the nations that were destroyed by my predecessors deliver them? The gods of Gozan, Haran, Repez, the people of Eden, who were in Telazar, crazy names. Where is the king of Haman, or the king of Arpad? Where are the kings of Lair, Sephraim, Hena, and Iva? Don't get too lost in the names. But here's the thing. They had conquered many kingdoms, and many of these kingdoms had gods that they devoted their lives to, not the same God that Judah and Hezekiah devoted their life to. And what he's saying here is just like, their gods didn't help them. Your God can't help you. There's no hope. You just need to surrender and then accept your whipping, which is probably going to be included with a lot of torture and a very, very painful death. And this is where we pick up in the story. Hezekiah is surrounded by the superpower. And these people are absolutely cruel. In fact, Assyrian torture is one of the most famous torture in all of history. I mean, they would do unbelievably horrible things. They would literally douse people in honey and then just throw bees on them and just laugh. It's just like do unbelievably awful things to people. And this is the people that Hezekiah has picked a fight with. And he's in a situation where if God doesn't show up, he's going down. Now, it's really interesting, and it's in these moments that you find out something about yourself. In these moments where it's like, there's no hope. There's none at all. It's in those moments that you find out something about yourself. Who your dependence is really on. In those moments where you just don't know what to do. And I'll be honest, this is a very extreme circumstance, and there's a lot more on the line. But we all get into those moments where we're like, I don't know what to do. And it's in those moments you find out something about yourself, and it's this. What do you depend on? What do you really depend on? And in fact, where is your faith? Where is your belief? Where is all of it really devoted in? Or what is it really devoted into? And Hezekiah finds out this about himself right here. Because, in this moment he could get into the fetal position, just rock himself and then wait for the inevitable. Or, or he can try to do an attack, but that's not going to work or whatever. But where is his hope really in? And the king of Assyria has already challenged him, saying it shouldn't be in your God because he can't help you. Other gods didn't help them. Other gods didn't help other people. Why would your God help you? And so, if you go into verse 14, Hezekiah received the letter from the messengers and read it. Then he went out to the temple of the Lord and spread it out before the Lord. And Hezekiah prayed to the Lord. And this is I've told you this is my favorite prayer in the Bible. And so he has the letter that he just received. This is what we just read. And he lays it out before God. Because that's where his hope's in. That's where all of his hope is in. If God doesn't show up in this circumstance, everyone in the entire kingdom, including himself, is going down. And that's his only hope. He's exhausted all his other options. In fact, before this, they've tried different things. They tried to make peace. They've tried to, stop the attacks. They couldn't. And now it's like, God, if you don't show up, we're going down. And this is my favorite prayer, and I love it. And just feel the power of it. Lord, the God of Israel, enthroned between the cherubim, you alone are God over all the kingdoms of the earth. And I love that because it's saying, like, listen, Assyria may think that they are above all, but I'm saying you are above all. What a bold statement, and especially in these circumstances. You have made the heavens and the earth. Give ear, Lord, and hear. Open your eyes, Lord, and see. Listen to the words Sennacherib has sent to ridicule the living God. It is true, Lord, that the Assyrian kings have laid waste to these nations and their lands. They have thrown their gods into the fire and destroyed them, for they were not gods but only wood and stone fashioned by human hands. Now, Lord our God, deliver us from his hand, so that all the kingdoms of the earth may know that you alone are God. And I love that ending because it's like, listen, we want to be rescued, but there's a bigger picture here. people need to know that you alone are God. And if you don't rescue us, they aren't going to believe that. And it's like, it's amazing because what could God do in this circumstance? I mean, this is a circumstance, it's like, even if God does show up, like, what is he going to do? And really, like, you have to wonder, is he going to send an army? Is he going to rain down, fire on the people? Like, what is he going to do? And this is incredible. This is what God does. Verse 35, and we're going to skip down quite a bit. That night, the angel of the Lord went out and put to death 185,000 in the Assyrian camp. When the people got up the next morning, they saw all the dead bodies. So King Sennacherib of Assyria broke camp and withdrew. He ran away. He got out of there, returned to Nineveh, and stayed there. One day, when he was worshiping in the temple of the god of Nisroch, his sons, I don't even want to try, Alamedek and Shalazar, killed him with the sword. And so he got his. Now, God actually came down and fought their battle for them. Now, there's actually a number, it's actually over 100,000 people that when God showed up, boom, he just killed a bunch of people to rescue Hezekiah and his people. Awesome story. Now, when I look at a story like this, it reminds me of a personal story from my life. When I was backed up against the wall. Now, a long time ago, I graduated college, and I was trying to get a job in the web field. I told you before that I'm a nerd, and that's what I do. I got a degree in internet technology, or as an internet specialist was actually the degree. Anyway, so I thought that, so right around after I got out of college, I actually proposed to my then girlfriend. She became my fiance, and we actually set a date for the October of the next year to get married. And so I was like, by then I will definitely have a job, everything's going to be squared away, life will be good. And we'll be able to find a place at that point, all that stuff, and then after we get married, we'll move in together. Anyway, that's not exactly how the plan went. In fact, 7 months passed before I finally got a job. And I'm telling you, it took every little effort. I applied to every little thing on Craigslist, every little resume. I put together an awesome resume, and it took me forever to actually get a job. And I won't say the name of the company, but it was a pretty well-known company, at least in our area. Anyway, so I went to go work there. And so at that point, I got a much better, making money out of college, all that good stuff. It was an entry-level job, but it was much better than I've ever had before. And so me and my wife, or actually it wasn't my wife at the time, so my fiance, decided, the date's in October. We both have good jobs now. Let's actually book the place. And so we booked a more expensive place because we felt like, we have good jobs now, everything is going to go smooth sailing from here on out. And so we booked it, and then 6 weeks into my job, and you guys got to picture this because we actually started looking at houses at that point because the housing market had crashed and all that stuff. And so we were trying to buy a place before, to have whenever we got married so we could live together. And anyway, so it's in all this 6 months into working at this job that I thought was God sending it to me and all that stuff, which I'm sure he did. But 6 months in, they call me in on my off day. They say, hey, we need you to come in. They sit me down with my boss and they say, you know what? It's not been working out. In fact, it hasn't been working out great at all. You, as of right now, you are going to be terminated, effective immediately. And I left. Packed my things and I left. And this is just weeks before we're about to get married, and we're still trying to find a house, and everything is a big question mark. And I remember in that moment, because I'm like, I had looked and looked and looked, and this job finally came to me. And I remember in that moment just I don't even know, I was in such a distraught. It took me 7 months to find that job. And I was like, I don't have another 7 months to find another job. And, and I also felt like I wasted my degree. I'm like, I spent all this time getting all this schooling, and I got nothing for it. Apparently this wasn't a good field for me anyway. And I remember in that moment just scared, not knowing what to do. And I remember so many times praying, God, I need you to rescue me. I don't know what to do. And listen, that's, it's not like food, like not like we were going hungry, but like we were in a bad state. And I'll never forget, I finally decided about a week after sulking and being sorrowful that I finally got back on the horse and tried again. I looked on Craigslist and there was a new job listing for a website ninja, which I was like, I think that's me, I don't know. So I applied and it was amazing because like Leslie's family left for vacation for a week, and by the time they came back, I went to go interview at this place and I got the job. And not only did I get the job, it was a better job than I had before. And God rescued us. So what is your hope in? What are you clinging to when you don't know what to do? Where's your hope? Because if it's in God, He can do anything. And if it's in you, you will find yourself coming up short. Thank you guys for joining me so much for this episode of Draw Near Moment. I hope it was helpful. And I hope that when you're in that hard spot that you know who to look to. Because God, in my opinion, is the only one worth. He's the only one that can really help you in those situations. But anyway, if it helped you and all that good stuff, then I would invite you to watch some of my other stuff in the past. I've been doing this for a couple months now, like 2.5 months, something like that. And I will continue to do it in the future. So anyway, there's a lot of things you can do below. You can follow me on Twitter. That'll help you stay in tune with the stuff that's going on in my life. And there's also, you can subscribe on YouTube, and it'll let you know when I put new videos up. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me for this episode, and come again next week for another episode of Draw Near Moment. Thanks.